Hello, everyone. Welcome to Triage Cancer's webinar, Healthy Organizing, How to Regroup and Create New Systems After Cancer. My name is Madison McMahon Ward, and I am the Program Coordinator for Triage Cancer, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Now, before we dive into today's topic, I just need to go over some housekeeping. All callers will be muted for the duration of the webinar. If you have any questions or technical problems, please type them in the question box. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing by the end of the week on our website, triagecancer.org. After today's session, you will receive an email with a link to the evaluation. We would appreciate it if you could take a few moments to provide your feedback. We are very grateful to Pharmacyclics for sponsoring the 2020 Triage Cancer webinar series. As part of the accreditation process for healthcare professionals, we have to read the following disclaimers and disclosures to you. This presentation is intended to provide general information on the topics presented. It is provided with the understanding that the author is not engaged in rendering any legal, medical, or professional services. The planners and presenters for this program have not disclosed any pertinent financial relationships or conflicts of interest. While this educational program has received commercial support from the previously listed sponsors, the content of the program has no relation to the commercial interest of the organization's products or services. I am pleased to let you know that Triage Cancer is an accredited provider of continuing nursing education by the American Nurses Credentialing Center's Commission on Accreditation. Triage Cancer is also approved to offer social work continuing education by the Association of Social Work Boards approved continuing education program. Therefore, nurses and social workers attending the live webinar and meeting the following requirements may be eligible for one continuing education credit. In order to receive continuing education credit, you must have registered online for today's session. People who are listening in on someone else's computer are not eligible for credit. You must attend the entire webinar. No partial credit will be awarded. Anyone watching a recording of this webinar will also not be eligible for credit. Within 1 week of this webinar, complete an evaluation and post-test. You must receive a passing grade on the post-test to be eligible for credit. And you will receive an email tomorrow which will contain the link to the evaluation and post-test. Please note that on the evaluation, it asks for your name and email address. You must include these so that we can certify that you completed the evaluation. That email is the address we will use to mail the certificates, and we will be mailing out those certificates within 4 weeks. For other types of healthcare professionals, we are more than happy to provide a general certificate of attendance. Just make sure to indicate that request on your evaluation. If you have any questions or experience any problems, email us at info@triagecancer.org. So now with that housekeeping out of the way, for those of you who aren't aware, Triage Cancer is a national nonprofit organization that provides education on the legal and practical issues that may impact individuals diagnosed with cancer and their caregivers. And I'm going to spend a few minutes sharing some of our resources with you so that if after today you have questions about other legal or practical issues that arise beyond diagnosis, you know where to go. We provide education on practical and legal issues in a few different ways. We participate in events all over the country. Some of these events are hosted by our partners in the cancer community, and some are events that we host ourselves. To see where we are going to be, take a look at our events calendar. Every year, we host 3 Triage Cancer conferences. This day-long event covers a variety of cancer survivorship topics. We welcome patients, survivors, caregivers, advocates, and healthcare professionals at this free event. Our 2020 conference registration is now open for all 3 of our conferences, so we hope to see you there. As you know, we host a monthly webinar series open to anyone in the cancer community. If you weren't able to join us for a past webinar or you would like to hear the information again, remember that we post the recordings of all of our past webinars on our website. We also host 2 educational programs that are specific to healthcare providers. The first is the In-Service for Healthcare Professionals, Navigating Cancer, Work and Insurance. The second training for healthcare professionals is the Insurance and Finance Intensive. This is a comprehensive certificate program for oncology healthcare professionals and advocates on health and disability insurance and finances. You can get more information and register for any one of these programs on our website under the Events tab. In addition to our events, we offer a number of educational materials and resources online. Our quick guides are designed to be a snapshot of a particular topic. They cover a variety of topics, and we are frequently adding new ones. We also have checklists and other documents designed to help with the legal and practical pieces of cancer survivorship. All of these documents can be downloaded for free on our website, or you may order hard copies of our materials on our website at triagecancer.org/material request. Because we recognize everyone learns in different ways, we also provide educational animated videos on cancer survivorship topics. We recently released 2 new videos, one on clinical trials and one on cancer survivorship care plans. We also have videos on health insurance and employment topics. These videos are available in English and Spanish, and stay tuned as we have more videos coming soon. We are also very excited to announce that we now have several resources available in Spanish, including most of our quick guides and all of our animated videos. Again, these quick guides can be downloaded for free on our website. We realize that it can be challenging to find what you are looking for on the internet. So we compiled the contact information for some of the most frequently used state-specific agencies and resources on our site. And because where you live can impact what protections you have access to, we have charts of state laws on employment, disability, health insurance, immigration, estate planning, and more. Cancer Finances is a site that we host in partnership with the SAM Fund that provides practical information on topics that can impact your finances. This website is designed to guide users to the information that is most relevant to their situation. We currently have modules on health insurance, disability insurance, education rights, estate planning, life insurance, and financial assistance resources. More topics will be added soon. And finally, our educational blog not only provides great information about cancer survivorship topics, but because things are constantly changing in the cancer community, this is how we share late-breaking news. And we have our monthly e-newsletter, which is where we announce all of our upcoming events. And with no further ado, let me introduce you to today's speaker, Sarah Skillen. Sarah is the owner of Skillset Organizing, a professional organizing and ADHD productivity coaching business serving the greater Nashville, Tennessee area. Her mission is to help overwhelmed people from all walks of life manage their stuff, their time, and their tasks. A former educator and paralegal, Sarah has worked in just about every kind of setting and was intrigued by the ways surroundings can affect our work, play, well-being, and productivity. And as a result, was inspired to found her company in 2012. Sarah is a certified organizer coach, a certified professional organizer, and an Evernote certified consultant. You can read more about Sarah and all of her accomplishments on our website. Remember, if you have any questions, type them in the question box, and Sarah will answer them towards the end of the presentation. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sarah.
Great, thank you. Let me see if I can get my screen to share here. Bear with me. There we go. Can everyone see?
It doesn't look like we can see your presentation yet.
Okay, bear with me. Let me try this again. Have we got it now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. There's always something. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining me, and many thanks to Triage Cancer for inviting me to speak with you all today. It's the second webinar I've done for Triage Cancer, and I'm thrilled to be back this afternoon talking with you about my favorite topic, and that is organization. It is a new year, and with that, being organized is frequently part of a resolution or goal-setting process for many people. But being organized and productive in your home or office can be challenging at times for anyone. And once somebody has been through cancer treatment, the challenges can multiply and result in what I call organizational stuck spots. Those are things like overflows of medical paperwork, a lack of energy for sorting and clearing, and the management of time and tasks that can be overwhelming and negatively affect a survivor's quality of life. So recognizing that typical organizing techniques work differently for different people, this webinar is seeking to help survivors and caregivers uncover realistic, effective, and most importantly, maintainable systems to get you back to a level of organization that fits and supports the life that you want to live. And I have a lot of information to share here, so let's fasten our seatbelts. I want to be sure we get some time for questions at the end. But let's begin. And I just want to go back over the objectives for today, the things that we're going to get through. One is to understand the connection between health and an individual's ability to manage their surroundings, their time, and their tasks. That's both on the front end of a diagnosis and on the back end after treatment. Number two, we're going to learn some basic principles of organization that will work in a variety of circumstances. Because organization is different for each person. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. But there are some basics that can be followed and customized for the situation. And number three, we're going to understand how to apply those principles to a new normal once the path to healing begins. How to reset. Like I said, organizing is not only different from person to person, but it's also different from life stage to life stage. All right, so why is it important? It does make a difference. There are a few studies out there about organizing and its impact on health. In a 2013 study, researchers found that participants who were placed in an orderly room chose an apple over chocolate more often than those placed in a disorderly room. And that was about 67% versus 20%. It's interesting, the study was actually looking at whether or not disorder encourages creativity. And ironically, they did discover that it does indeed, in some instances, encourage creativity. So positive effect on creativity, but a negative effect on healthy choices. In a Sparefoot blog survey, and Sparefoot is a company that works with storage facilities, and they do a lot of interesting surveys and provide information about organization. 44% of Americans say that they make unhealthier food choices when their home is messy. And also in a study a little bit older, I think 2011, women who described their homes as cluttered or full of unfinished projects were more depressed, fatigued, and had higher levels of stress hormones than women who felt that their homes were restful and restorative. And you want to note with all of these studies, perception is everything. Very often the studies focus on how people feel about their spaces as opposed to how those spaces actually do function. In other words, they're not actually going in and measuring an amount of clutter in someone's home, but they're talking to people about how they feel about their clutter in their home or in their office for that matter. And from my vantage point, working with hundreds of clients in a variety of organizational situations, it's important to have that feeling of being in control of at least one thing. That's really huge. And that's particularly huge with an illness or cancer. Maybe you can't control what's going on with the cancer or with the illness to some extent, but by golly, you can get a junk drawer cleared out and orderly. And of course, it works the other way around, which we're going to take a look at here in just a moment. So what being organized does mean is improved sleep, possibly. Having a super cluttered bedroom may affect how well you sleep, according to a study led by clinical psychologist Pamela Thatcher at St. Lawrence University. And while the research focused on people who consider themselves hoarders, the findings may apply to anyone who sleeps in cramped, chaotic surroundings. And I know from working with a sleep specialist myself, and we talk about things like sleep hygiene, one of the things you want to strive for in a bedroom is having some calm and order. Being able to sleep in a place that feels calm and comfortable is important. And conversely, on the other side of it, bedrooms are often the most cluttered spaces in a person's home because it's easy to shut the door and hide what's going on. Being organized can mean fewer allergy and asthma issues. Naturally, when you have disorder and clutter, it's more difficult to clean and keep dust under control. Things like pets, all kinds of things, you know, if there's clutter, it's very difficult to get rid of those things and to clean. It can also encourage avoidance of attempts to organize because of the home occupant's desire to stay away from dust. So it creates a vicious cycle. And being organized definitely equates to having a safer home. So thinking about things like whether or not there's clutter all over the floor, making it difficult to move around. Overstuffed closets, things that could fall out when you open up the closet. Difficulty finding needed medication or first aid supplies. If you have a lot of clutter, it's very easy to misplace those things. It can cause difficulty with needed home repairs. And it can cause difficulty for emergency personnel in very extreme situations. And we are all people who are sort of path of least resistance human beings. You know, if something is difficult to deal with, we will take the easiest way out. I know I've worked with people who have literally ripped out their smoke alarm rather than try to go find the 9-volt battery in all of their clutter to replace it. So personally and anecdotally, I find that my clients' comfort in their surroundings has a huge impact on their well-being. And I like to test them out and say, if you can find something in 20 seconds or less, or if you can put your brain on where something is in 20 seconds or less, you're in pretty good shape from that standpoint. So what about definitions of being organized? A lot of people have different definitions of what that means. A lot of people are under the impression from, say, magazines or social media or things like Pinterest, that good organization means having a lot of pretty containers and labels, or folding shirts in a particular way, or maybe even having a minimalist lifestyle. And while it can mean some of those things for different people, buying into the messages too much can be defeating in many cases and can also be extremely time consuming and, in my experience, expensive. So I'm going to ask you to take a look at a photo here and just make a note of your initial reaction to it. I'm going to zoom in on it just so you can get a little closer view. Now, if I was doing this presentation with a live audience, I would ask for some comments, and they might range from, gee, that looks pretty good, to holy cow, that's a wreck. How does anybody get anything done in that space? And then everything in between. Again, organization is really in the eye of the beholder. But what I really want you to ask yourself is whether or not this represents an organized space for whoever the person is that uses it. And what I would say is that it's impossible to tell whether or not the person who works in this office is organized. Organization is perceived, and how someone functions in a space is a unique combination of accessing what they need when they need it, being able to function, how they feel about it, and possibly the aesthetics. So again, it is not one size fits all. So if you're thinking about becoming more organized yourself, or you work with someone that you feel could stand to benefit from some improved organization, how do you even determine whether someone's home is appropriately organized for them? And so it requires asking some questions and a little bit of self-reflection, noticing behavior. You know, many times we aren't even aware of how much time we spend wasting looking for something, particularly after a major illness, cancer, surgery, things like that. We often become sort of numb to our own behaviors. And having some open, non-judgmental communication and some honest communication with yourself, if you're the person that's feeling like you need to become more organized, is really important. So if you're working with someone who's largely unaware of the effects of their clutter creep, it might be a time to just have a little conversation. How do you feel in your space? I noticed you're having a little trouble finding things. What do you think's going on there? Again, keeping it very non-judgmental and curious is really important. And there are different types of disorganization. And the first one that's most common with cancer survivors is what we would call situational disorganization. That happens when changes in our lives disrupt the sense of order that existed before. It can be brought about by a move, an illness, a major injury, a new family member, a change of schedule, or any similar situation where you find yourself lacking focus, motivation, and/or energy for organizing. So it can also be brought about by positive changes. It's not always something like a cancer diagnosis. And you might want to keep that in mind when someone who's recovering suddenly thinks that it might be a great idea to get a brand new puppy. New things like that, even though they're very positive, cause major disruptions in schedules. And you might want to wait on things like that until the new normal is more established. Now, situational disorganization is distinct from something we call chronic disorganization. And chronic disorganization is something it's a term that was coined by the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, and it describes people who have a past history of disorganization in which self-help efforts to change have failed, an undermining of current quality of life due to disorganization, and the expectation of future disorganization. So you have those three factors with chronic disorganization. And it's not something that is as easy to bounce back from as situational disorganization. It can be traced back to things like brain conditions like ADHD, OCD, autism spectrum disorders, chronic pain, brain injury, depression, or anxiety. But it can also occur if situational disorganization is not addressed. So somebody may start off situationally disorganized, and if they don't take steps to work on it and establish their new systems for their new normal, it can gradually snowball or spiral into what we call chronic disorganization. All of this, I should say too, is distinct from hoarding disorder, which is a completely different situation, and it is an actual diagnosis, and it's outside the scope of what I'm going to be talking about today. So I like to come up with my own definitions for things, and I came up with something that I call balanced organization. You can certainly reflect on what it means for you or the people that you know and work with. And because I'm not necessarily the kind of organizer that works towards what we call Pinterest perfect organization, I have a little bit more everyday, realistic, functional kind of view of it. And the closet here in this photo that you see is an example of a closet I've worked on recently. And it reflects more the personality and the needs of the person who uses it. So it may not look exactly like something from a catalog, but it is functional, it's clear, you can see what's there, and you can reach things. And so my definition ties into this: the state of equilibrium in which there are neither too many nor too few items for the user of a space to maintain, feeling contented, effective, and reasonably in control of one's surroundings. And I also like to refer to it as the Goldilocks zone of organization. So in my world, it's not about visual perfection, although it can be. Again, if that helps someone and motivates someone to stay more organized, it can be pretty. But it really is about, for me, functionality, comfort with your spaces, uniformity, and some clear spots, a little bit of air to breathe in between the things that you use and own. Okay, the effects of cancer on organization. To my knowledge, there have not been any specific studies on this situation. I think there's a missed opportunity there. I did some searching. I know that there's certainly information on the connection between health and organization and stress and organization, but I do think there's a missed opportunity. If anyone out there has an interest in taking a closer look at the connection between cancer and organization, I'd love to chat with you about it. However, anecdotally, I've observed, and I know that many of my organizing colleagues have observed, the following factors in both cancer survivors and others who have experienced serious illness, recognizing, of course, that everyone's different. You may see several of these factors all at once, or you may only see one or two. The first one is changing priorities. Who wants to clear out the junk drawer when you're recovering from surgery or treatment? Or conversely, cancer survivors may have a heightened sense that they need to organize a lot. I hear the sentence, I don't want somebody else having to go through my stuff someday. I hear that a lot. And so, you know, it can change the way that they've looked at organization in the past. Memory and focus. This is pretty huge. Things like chemo brain, the type of cancer, and how it affects the brain, and medication. And that's because organization really is tied into executive function and being able to make decisions and plan ahead and sort and, you know, do all those types of skills that can be affected if everything isn't working the way it used to. And some of the signs and symptoms could include the following, and I got this from the Mayo Clinic related to chemo brain, and that is number one was being unusually disorganized, confusion, difficulty concentrating, difficulty learning new skills, difficulty multitasking, feelings of mental fogginess, short attention span, short-term memory problems, taking longer than usual to complete routine tasks, trouble with verbal memory, such as remembering a conversation, and trouble with visual memory, such as recalling an image or a list of words. And there is a saying out there that all clutter is the result of postponed decisions. And so when decision-making skills are compromised, it has an effect. The third effect that I've witnessed is retail therapy and what people call one-clicking. It's something I observed actually in my own mother who battled multiple myeloma. And I've also seen it in clients, particularly with short-term impulse purchases. Things that kind of make you feel better in the moment, like getting magazines or candy at the checkout line, home decor, little small pieces of home decor, craft items, garage sale items, things that are really easy to obtain, may or may not be low cost, but they make you feel good in the moment and can definitely lead to an excess of clutter. Physical limitations have an effect on it. So, being able to reach things, being able, limited mobility, not being able to get around to put things away. That's why having things in a really good organized state to begin with can make a huge difference for someone if they are having difficulty moving around. And then last, the sheer volume of what I call new things like paperwork, additional tasks, appointments, disrupted schedules, all the things that are different after cancer has been diagnosed or after cancer treatment. So what do you do? How can you support your own path to better organization or a better path of organization for someone that you work with? What do you do with and for the survivor to help set up structures that support that new normal? And if you're staring at a home or office full of stuff, the most common question I get when people reach out to me for help is, how do I begin? Well, there are lots of ways to help someone improve their level of the organization. All of them come with caveats and pros and cons. So some experimentation, and again, strong communication with the person wanting to organize their stuff is critical. Recognize that there will likely be some shame and embarrassment involved, maybe even resistance, particularly if you're talking about cutting back on the volume of stuff that may be in a home or a workspace. So the first way to support is by reaching out to friends and family. Now that's an obvious first choice because it's cost effective and it's easy access, but it can backfire spectacularly if the friend or family member is pushy or judgmental. Forcing someone to part with items before they're ready never works long term. And someone may have the very best of intentions, maybe coming from a very loving spot, but if they march into the disorganized person's space and start giving orders like, do this, do that, get rid of this, why are you keeping this? It's not always a good result. So Choosing the friend or family member who's willing to take some time, be supportive and non-judgmental, and help with that decision-making process. And it can be done successfully. The second way is through books or online programs. These can be very helpful, but they usually require a high degree of initiative on the part of the person who wants to become more organized. Now, books and online programs and even TV shows can be fantastic for someone who is situationally disorganized who was really organized before cancer. So maybe before they were diagnosed and went through treatment, they were really on the ball and on top of their stuff. And, treatment just kind of threw them for a loop. Many times these are the folks that can get a lot by reading a book, and recognizing that different things resonate differently for different people. So, the incredibly popular Marie Kondo book and TV show around the life-changing magic of tidying up, it really resonates for some people. For other people, they don't get it. So some experimentation is required with this particular method. Number 3 is caregivers. Caregivers may be in a unique position to offer the help if it's requested, or in a unique position to suggest help. If they can be very objective about it, they can approach the situation in a very caring way. And sometimes hearing it from someone outside your friends or family can be easier to swallow, particularly if it's delivered in a caring way. If they help with the organization, again, it can be great because it's often less of a judgmental or emotionally heated kind of situation, but they may also organize in a way that's counterintuitive to the person who is being organized. So again, there's that communication piece again. That's really huge. Understanding how people need to have their stuff arranged. Some people can't stand to have everything hidden behind drawers and cabinets. They really need to have things out and visible, or else they'll forget about it. Other people become very distracted by having lots of things out. So it's very individualized. And then finally, professional organizers and coaches. If it's in the budget, this may be the best option. But buyer beware, do your research and find someone who is qualified. Now, there are great resources for finding qualified organizers in your area, and understanding that it is a profession that is easy entry. You don't have to have a license to be a professional organizer. You can literally hang out a shingle if you're good at organizing, or if you've done closets for friends, or if you've organized your whole home top to bottom. There are a lot of people that start that way, and there are some very fine organizers out there who do that. But I think it's important, particularly if you're dealing with heavy levels of disorganization, to ask a lot of questions. See if the person has taken additional education. See if they have some certifications. See if they belong to professional organizations like the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, also known as NAPO. That is one of the primary organizations for professional organizers in the country. You can find them at napo.net, and most larger cities have local chapters of NAPO. They all have websites with directories to find a professional in your area. Then you can check out the websites, check out their background, their level of experience, all that kind of stuff. There's also the ICD. I referred to them earlier when I was talking about chronic disorganization. That's the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, and that's their website on the screen there. They also have directories of their members. Even after you have gone through the process of finding local professionals and narrowing it down and reaching out and contacting them for help, be sure to ask questions. I am always shocked at how few questions people ask me when they initially reach out to me. Things like, what kind of clients do you work with? There are all kinds of professional organizers out there. There are people who specialize in seniors, people who specialize in brain differences, people who specialize in photo organization, people who specialize in moves and unpacking after moves. I mean, there's every kind of stripe you can imagine. So asking what their experience is with, perhaps with people who've been through major life transitions could be helpful. Ask them about their level of experience. It's not necessarily a deal breaker if they don't have a lot of experience. We all had to start somewhere. but make sure that they're a good fit for you personality-wise. Again, asking if they belong to some professional organizations, asking if they carry insurance. Are they really operating their business as a business? And do they have a basic business license in the state, and do they carry insurance? And then another important consideration that a lot of people don't think about is whether or not they work solo or with a team. There is a trend in organization now for there to be organizing companies with employees on staff. Sometimes that can be awesome. You know, if a team of 3 or 4 people come in and they descend upon your garage and they go through and get everything in beautiful order, it can save a lot of time. On the other side of it, some people feel uncomfortable having a huge team of strangers come into their home and might prefer to work with someone who works just one-on-one and who provides a more personalized experience. It really is just according to your taste and preferences. So those are the ways that can be supported. But if you want to work on getting organized on your own or helping someone that you work with to become more organized, there is a method that I teach. Again, just to give people a way to get started with their organizing journeys. And I call it LESS, because less is more, right? And because lots of organizers have cool acronyms, and I thought I needed an acronym too. So this is a method I came up with years ago, just to give people something to grab onto when they felt overwhelmed and didn't know where to start. Again, that's the most common question and complaint I get on the front end is, I don't know where to start. What do I do? How do I begin? And so I typically walk them through this method on the front end. It's customizable. It can be used in any sort of a space. It can even be used and applied to your time management, your calendar. It could be used as easily in the trunk of your car as in your entire attic space. So it does follow a certain framework, but it's flexible. And L on the front end is for learn. We generally don't know what all we have until we purposefully take steps to find out. So we're also not often aware of how we work best with the items and information around us. And so L is about learning exactly what's in your closet or your desk drawer. I worked with somebody recently on their master bedroom closet, and I suggested, because I knew they wanted to make really fast progress, I said, before I get there, you know, pull out the items in the closet and just lay them out. And if you feel like making some decisions, that's great, but pull everything out. And they did that. And when I arrived, they were shocked at how much that they pulled out of that space. We tend to really underestimate how much can be crammed into one location, and we can't begin to organize it until we learn about it. So it may not just be office supplies in a desk drawer, but it might be 7 pens that don't work, 5 that do, 2 that you don't like, a bunch of rubber bands, pads of sticky notes, a little bottle of mouthwash that's leaking, mechanical pencils with broken leads, random notepads, unopened boxes of staples or paper clips that you picked up at a buy one, get one free sale, forks, packets of condiments, coffee stirrers, 32 business cards that you haven't entered into your contacts. In other words, pulling everything out and looking at it is a whole lot different than just looking at the space and saying, oh, that's my drawer, or, oh, that's my closet, it has my clothes. I guarantee it has a lot more than just what you think. So not only is it about learning what's in a space and recognizing it, but it's also learning about yourself and or the person who's, you know, being organized, learning about their own habits, their own tendencies. Those have likely changed. Again, having some self-awareness. Do you have a tendency now to walk in with the mail and just plop it down on the coffee table versus taking it to the spot where you normally take it and sort it? Well, maybe that system needs to be revamped. Maybe you're going to sit at the coffee table and process your mail. Or maybe you just need a place to collect it until you have set aside time to go through it and process it. But learning about these new ways of moving through spaces and the ways that you tend to accumulate and the way you tend to view your clutter is really important. The second part of it is evaluate. So while learn is kind of fun for most people, believe it or not, evaluate can be a little more difficult. Learning is fun because sometimes we can unearth things that we'd forgotten about that are kind of cool. Like maybe you find the photograph of your Aunt Bessie from the 1950s, or you uncover a watch that you thought you'd lost. Or I've been in situations where people uncover wads of cash. I mean, sometimes pulling all that stuff out it's like going on a treasure hunt. But then when we get down to evaluate, this is more critical, and it's often the emotional part of the organizing process. And it's why I keep tissues handy when I'm helping people organize, because this is getting to what I call the stuff behind the stuff, the emotional impact and the reasons why you have accumulated things. It can be troubling, and it's where you start asking yourself some questions. Do I use this item? When's the last time I even touched it? Is this an item I love? Is this an item I'm keeping out of guilt? Is this an item that represents something that is no longer relevant in my life? Does this remind me of someone special? There are all kinds of questions to ask when you're going through this evaluate process. But going through and determining the meaning of the objects that you have around you is really, really critical. Can't skip over that part. The next two letters are kind of on the downhill slide. And I will say that evaluate and sort eventually sort of start to happen at the same time as you get better at evaluating. So sorting is what we do when we put the like with the like, and we start making decisions, which again can be difficult. But once you've worked through a couple of decisions and exercised that brain muscle, it starts to get easier. And this is where you need to create categories that are meaningful to the situation. Most all organizing situations have categories like keep. In other words, I'm keeping this item and it belongs in this room. Pitch, donate or sell, or relocate. It could be that, yes, I need to keep this item, but it really belongs in the kitchen. And I always suggest that with relocate things that are sorted, that you have a box or a basket handy, and you just kind of plop all of those relocate items in the basket as you go, and wait to the end to go around relocating them. Because the minute you find something in your closet that really belongs in your office, and you walk out the door of your bedroom to go to your office and relocate it, you're going to find 5 other things that are catching your attention, and it's hard to get back in the groove. So I always suggest keeping the relocates together on the front end and taking them where they belong on the back end. And sometimes that can result in sort of a domino effect. You start taking these items to different parts of your home or office and realizing, oh, that space kind of needs help too. And oh gosh, the laundry room, wow. And so that's, you kind of have to prepare yourself for that and recognize that it can't all be done at the same time. You have to take it step by step, and a little bit of organization is better than none at all. You may come up with some other categories too. I had somebody who really wanted to save a lot of excess cookbooks for a niece. So we were putting all the cookbooks into one location and saving it for that particular person. Some people have very specific charitable organizations that they have very specific items they want to donate to that organization, and that's great. But you want to make sure that you don't have so many new categories that it's actually a camouflage for stalling. And asking yourself or the person you're working with, are you thinking up so many different ways to distribute your stuff that you won't ever actually be able to make good on those promises? How many of us have pulled together a whole bunch of stuff to donate and piled it all together in the garage, and that's as far as we got? So making sure that you keep your categories to a reasonable level, and then you make a plan of action for getting those donate items or those sell items or the things that are going to somebody else. Make a clear plan and set a date for when those are going to be delivered. And then finally, we have the system. The last step is the one piece that people try to accomplish out of order. People try to put system first all the time because it seems a little more interesting, or it gives you an excuse to go shopping for all kinds of captivating organizing supplies. Many times when I come to a client's home or office, they have gone out on the front end and bought stuff. I try to caution them not to do that. Or before they met me or reached out to me, maybe they went out and bought some things. They went out and bought bins or a label maker or colored file folders or all kinds of cool things, and got home and they weren't really sure what to do with it. And the problem with that is you're buying on the front end without really learning, evaluating, and sorting what you really need. And then the system doesn't always fit. In fact, it rarely does. So when you get the last box for charity out the door, or boxes of shredding out of the way, you can relax and take a look at the space that you have left for creating the system for the stuff that really needs to be kept, the things that really apply to the current stage of life. But this is also where you can be creative. And if people have gone and bought organizing supplies on the front end, you can do a little shopping in your own home and determine, okay, is this something that I can repurpose or use to help set up a system for how to maintain and store the things that you need to keep. You need to take into consideration things like how often you need the item. If you are reaching for a particular kitchen utensil all the time and you're right-handed, then that kitchen utensil needs to be one of the things closest to you and on the right-hand side of you, if at all possible. If you need visual clues like color coding or big labels on things to keep things in place, you may need to think about, how tall or how short you are. If you're 5'2", is it smart to store things up on the highest shelf in the pantry? So thinking through how to restructure things in the space takes a little bit of time and experimentation, but it's really worth it in the long run. And I have a little clutter alert here. If you are going to shop for organizational items during this system phase, which is fine, make sure you measure the spaces and double check to see what you already have. The measuring piece is huge. I'll have people who want to have trays to separate things in their drawers, but they don't measure the depth of the drawer, and then they go out and buy things that are too deep and they won't fit. So don't walk into the office supply store or into the office supply or the organizing supply aisle without a list of what you want and some measurements. And you can get creative in this stage. If you don't like to file things, then you don't have to use files. Some people do really well with neat stacks of things in trays or in magazine holders. If you don't like folding your t-shirts, that's okay, hang them up. Do the system that works for you or for the person that you're working with. And you'll know quickly if it's working, because you shouldn't have to think too hard to get a system to work for you. And you may have to try out more than one system to find the best solution. You also have to revise systems because life changes, right? If you organize for your space the way things are with small children, it's going to be very different from the way you organize your spaces when they're teenagers or when you move into retirement. Organizing is a morphing, elastic, continual process. It's not a final destination. And it's not a simple quick fix kind of thing. So people often ask me, well, how long is this less method going to take? It didn't take an hour for your pantry to start overflowing. So getting and keeping it organized is not going to take just an hour. So don't be discouraged. Think about how much time you think it might take to do a space and then double it. So if you think it's going to take you a day to work through a garage with someone, plan for 2 days, plan a whole weekend. If you get finished early, awesome. You can kick back and enjoy the space. And if you aren't really sure how to estimate the amount of time, try it on a very small space, like a drawer or a shelf or a cabinet, and time yourself and see how long it takes with the decision-making process. Again, different people make decisions differently. And somebody might whiz through something very quickly and be able to make very quick decisions. Other people may have a harder time with it. And being patient with the process is really key. All right. So that was a lot of information. Moving on to how you move forward. And again, organizing is different at different stages of life. If you're working with someone, you can either ask these kinds of questions with that person, or if it's you, you can ask yourself these questions. It's important to check in from time to time. So remember that being organized is not supposed to take the main stage in someone's life. It's not supposed to be what their whole life is about. Rather, it's supposed to be a structure or a scaffolding that hums in the background that makes your life easier to live. And so keeping that in mind, asking what are the goals? You know, now that you've been through this journey, you've gotten through cancer treatment, or maybe you're in cancer treatment, or maybe you're starting the journey, but regardless where you are, what are the goals? What are the current most important things you have to consider? What are the long-term goals? What do you want to get to? All of that impacts the way you arrange your stuff and your time. What's most important right now in terms of the organizing? So if, say somebody's having difficulty sleeping, getting that bedroom organized might be the priority. If somebody's really interested in cooking healthier and improving the way they eat, getting the kitchen organized and under control may be the most important thing. That gives some direction to where to start with the process. How can those spaces support your priorities? If cancer has caused you to reevaluate the way you spend your time, maybe you want to take more time to travel. Maybe you want to spend more time with grandchildren. What do your spaces need to do to support those goals? And if we can improve your organization, how will things look? How will they feel? And how will they function? That is a really great question if you are wanting to work with somebody that you feel like needs to improve their organization. I meant to add a picture with that, sorry. We all want to have a very Zen experience in our laundry room. But anyway, I thought that was a fun picture to include. But going back to the last question, improving your organization, how will things look for you? Will the spaces be really bare and minimalist? Will they be colorful? Will they feel a certain way? How will they function? How easy will it be for you to move around in the space? How little will you have to think about organizing? You know, some people say, I don't really want to mess with a whole lot of stuff. Well, if you don't want to mess with a whole lot of stuff, then you don't need to own a whole lot of stuff. A lot of people, when they prioritize, think about focusing on experiences rather than things. And I wholeheartedly endorse that philosophy. So if they're wanting to think about their experiences and the way they spend their time, then maybe the organization needs to focus on the calendar and how they structure the time that they're spending in their life. Those kinds of things can get cluttered as well when we take on too many commitments and too many other priorities with our time. Okay, so wrapping up, I think I actually left a little extra time for questions here. So do we want to read some questions out and I'll answer them at this point?
Yeah, of course, Sarah. Thank you so much for that great presentation. As a reminder, if anyone has a question, you can type it in the question box, or if it is easier to type it in the chat box if it's difficult to find the question box. So our first question is, can you review the definition of chronic disorganization?
Absolutely. I won't go back to the slide. I'll just go back to my notes here. And I'll give you some background on that. I mentioned the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. That is an organization that really focuses on research and education around improved organization and productivity. And they actually came up with this definition. It's not a diagnosis. I want to be really clear about that, but it can be tied to various diagnoses. But chronic disorganization is defined by having a past history of disorganization in which self-help efforts to change have failed. In other words, the person has tried repeatedly to get themselves organized and it hasn't worked. And undermining current quality of life, the organization undermines the current quality of life, and there is an expectation of future disorganization. So past history of disorganization, self-help efforts haven't worked, quality of life is undermined, and there's an expectation of future disorganization. And again, this is very often traced to brain conditions like ADHD, OCD, autism, brain injury, and I would assume chemo brain could be included in that as well.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
We have another question.
Mm-hmm.
What are some strategies to address the emotional attachment of items?
Oh, that's a great one. Well, the first strategy is patience. If you're talking about yourself, it's patience with yourself. If you're talking about working with someone else, it's patience with them. I talk with people a lot of times about what I call pivotal objects, and those are very often objects that carry a great emotional weight. So sometimes it can help to have someone else hold the object. In other words, not the person who owns it, but somebody else, somebody who's patient and non-judgmental, holding that object, because then it kind of releases the emotional attachment to it. Holding the object and asking the questions, tell me about this item and what does it mean for you? And when was the last time you used it? Or when was the last time you enjoyed it, if it's something sentimental? How does it fit into your life now? And is it something that has a good memory, or is it something that brings up a lot of difficult memories? Is it something, and again, it is never just about the stuff. It is about the emotional impact of the stuff. And asking through, walking through a lot of those questions, asking what would happen if you kept it? What would be the impact if you hung on to this item? What would be the impact if you let go of this item? Would you even think about this item 2 weeks from now? Would you think about this item 2 months from now? And asking lots of questions, helping them to look at that item from lots of different perspectives, and recognizing, particularly if it's sentimental and they do want to keep it, asking them, do you have the space to store this item appropriately? Or do you have the capacity to take care of this item? If you're going to keep an item, it needs to be stored properly, and you have to be able to take care of it going forward. So if it's a gigantic bin full of Christmas cards and you're going to shove them up in the attic, that's one thing. You might have the space for it, but is the heat and humidity or the elements going to affect that such that when you pull them back out again, they're ruined? Then that really hasn't done you any good. So if somebody wants to hang on to something, I always tell them it's fine. It's your choice. But if you're going to hang on to it, you need to find a way to maintain it appropriately, store it, and be able to enjoy it when you want to. And if you are going to keep it, you may need to look at letting go of some other things in order to make space for it.
Great. We have one last question. Mm-hmm. Do you change your approach when the person is clinically depressed?
Also a great question. I think they need to address the clinical depression first. I think that when, and of course, I think some of that depends upon degrees. Like I have worked with people who are in treatment for depression, like they're taking steps to address their depression with a therapist or with a psychiatrist. And as long as they're taking steps to address it and they are able to move the needle a little bit with organization, I think it's fine to work with them. But if they're clinically depressed and just really not able to move forward, I really feel strongly that that has to be addressed first. So making the suggestion, are you working with a therapist? Have you taken some steps to get the depression manageable?
Great. That is all the time we have for questions. So if Sarah, you wanted to share the last resource you have.
I do. So if you want more information, if you want to send me some questions afterwards, you can find me at skillsetorganizing.com. On the homepage, you can sign up to receive my blog, which comes out twice a month. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And I also recently published my first book back in January, Organizing in Big Scary Goals, Working with Discomfort and Doubt to Create Real Life Order. That's the cover of it right there. It's available on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com, or I would love it if you would reach out to your local bookstore and ask them to order it. They can order it and get it in for you. Maybe even ask for it at your library if you like. And if you do read it and get through the whole thing, I'd love it if you left a review somewhere. Again, all the usual places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble has a review spot, and also Goodreads has a place where you can review books. And again, just want to say thank you to Triage Cancer for the opportunity to speak with all of you this afternoon, and I hope it's been helpful. And good luck with your organizing adventures.
Awesome, Sarah. Thank you so much. Again, if anyone has any questions for Sarah, you can reach out to her with the information on the screen, or you can send us an email at info@triagecancer.org, and we'll be happy to help you with that. So next, we are going to hear from one of our new partners that we are very excited to have with us today. Let me just get there. Bear with me. All right, so we are very excited to announce our partnership with Citizen, which is a free online resource that helps cancer patients quickly and easily request their full medical records from all of their providers. And we are very delighted to have with us today a representative from Citizen to share more about this wonderful service. So with that, I'd like to introduce Stacy, who is the Director of Advocacy and Engagement at Citizen. As part of her role, Stacy educates cancer advocacy groups and cancer patient communities about the value of health data portability for improved health literacy, coordination of care, and participation in research. Since her own early stage breast cancer diagnosis in 2013, she has integrated into the cancer advocacy space as a patient, research, and policy advocate. She is a board-certified patient advocate, a 2017 project lead graduate and research advocate, a member of the Komen Advocates in Science program on their Education and Communication Committee, and a member of the Breast Science Advocacy Corps with UCSF. So Stacy, I'd like to turn it over to you to tell us more about Citizen.
Thanks so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I now have control of the screen. Is that true?
Yep, you're good
Awesome.
to go.
Thanks for the introduction, Madison. And had I known you were going to read all of that, I would have given a much more simple bio. So thank you for that. As Madison mentioned, I am, oops, let's see if I can make this go. I am a board certified patient advocate, which, as some of you may know, is a relatively new space. I am the director of advocacy and engagement for the company called Citizen, and we're super excited to partner with Triage Cancer. But most importantly, and what brings me here today, is really the fact that I am 6.5 years out from my own early stage breast cancer diagnosis, and I was diagnosed 4 months after my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. Changed the whole trajectory of my day-to-day and changed the trajectory of my career. So I'm excited to work with Citizen because fundamentally we truly believe in educating and empowering people, and we are starting with cancer. Just again, by way of introduction, the bottom picture on the left, that's my mom with the newly shaved bald head. That was me back when I had hair. And that was about 6 weeks before I discovered that I had cancer growing in my body. The woman in the middle is a woman named Devin McGraw. She is the former deputy director of privacy at Health and Human Services, and now she works with us. She's our chief regulatory officer, and she was actually the woman who wrote most of the guidance with regard to the HIPAA right of access, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And then on the far right, the woman smiling is a woman named Tanya Sethi. And she was killed by metastatic breast cancer in September of 2017. The man on the far right is her brother, Anil Sethi, and he's the founder of Citizen, and founded this company basically to do what they struggled to do when he was helping her go through her treatment. And that was really organized around their health data. So super excited to be following Sarah's presentation on organization, and definitely interested in sharing this information with you guys. So super quickly, because we only have about 25 minutes, we're going to talk very briefly about what health data is. Again, it's hard for me to know exactly what hat each of you wear, whether you're in the clinical care space, whether you're with industry, whether you're patients, whether you're caregivers. So I'm just going to kind of put information out there, and hopefully if you have any specific questions, we can address them. And we're going to talk a little bit about the value of health data, and obviously some of the value of organizing that health data. Talk very briefly about the patient right of access under HIPAA, which is what Citizen was founded of. And then we're going to talk about Triage Cancer and the Citizen Partnership. So what is health data? If you come at this space as a patient, if you come at this space as a caregiver, a lot of people think health data is really the data in their portal. And while that is true, that is not comprehensive. Our health data, as defined by the law, is anything in our designated record set, which is anything that can be used to make decisions about our care. So it is our medical records, it's our pharmaceutical records, it's our genetics and our genomics testing. All of our imaging is considered part of our health data. Any record used to make decisions about our care. And the value of that health data is expansive. And again, I'm coming at you from the cancer space, and I know Triage Cancer, obviously, in their extensive support of cancer patients and their families. Health data can help people just simply understand their own disease, and whether that's a disease that they hope to treat and get on a path to wellness, or whether that is a stage 4 diagnosis and they're going to be, kind of dealing with this information in perpetuity. It's super important to have access to that information, either for yourself or for the people who are helping you manage your care. Having access to that health data obviously helps us manage our own care, helps with care coordination, helps with second opinions. Even if we are very comfortable in being our own advocate, sometimes that health data is super important for our families and our family caregivers to either help support us or just understand, any sort of hereditary components or things that may be coming down the pike. It's also super important when we think about this new normal, and hopefully this new kind of innovations in the clinical trial space, in the genetics and genomics space, and how we might accelerate research with possession of our own data. So the right of access under HIPAA, truly, I'm breaking this down into 5 pillars for simplicity. Under the HIPAA privacy rule, and the patient right of access under that rule, individuals are entitled to all of our data. So all of the health data that we just talked about, not just what's in your portal, but everything, the physician notes, your surgical notes, things that sometimes we don't always have access to. You're entitled to that information in the preferred format. So if you want it in paper, you are welcome to it in paper. If you want it in email, you are welcome to it in email. You're entitled to that information within 30 days of your request being received by the institution that holds that data. You're entitled to that information with limited fees, and this is particularly important, and on a regular basis I hear stories of people who have asked for their health data and they're told that it costs $25 just to ask, and then they're going to be charged $1 a page. That is an institution that is out of compliance with the patient right of access. And ONC, the Office of the National Coordinator, is really starting to enforce penalties for what they're calling information blocking. And then you're entitled to have that information shared with a third party, whether that's an individual or whether that's a third party like Citizen. So I'm not going to spend too long on these slides, and I'm happy to make them available. This just goes through, the designated record set, the things that are included in your right of access under HIPAA. And then we talked a little bit about preferred format. Again, you are entitled to your health data in the form and format that you request, as long as the institution can readily produce it. This was particularly significant as institutions were just starting to get on board in the digital space. We could have asked for it in electronic format, but if a care provider didn't have an electronic medical record set up and it was challenging for them to get it to you in that format, they could say we can't do that. But nowadays, if you want it electronically, you should be able to have it electronically. The exception to this rule, and it's not really an exception, it's just a caveat, is that if the format you're requesting it in might cause the institution any harm, they can refuse. And the example that we like to use is, it would be great to have everything on a thumb drive. If we supply a thumb drive to an institution, they can say no thank you, because they don't know what's on that thumb drive, and plugging it into their system may introduce a virus, so they can refuse that. The 30 days is really, really important. There is one 30-day extension permitted, but they need to explain that to you and let you know before they hit that 30-day mark. The limited fees is also very, very important. They can have a reasonable cost-based fee if you want your records in paper. And I don't think anybody stands at a copy machine anymore and prints out copies like they used to. But if they needed to print these things from the computer onto paper, they can charge a fee. But they can only charge you for the costs of supplies and postage. They cannot charge you, if you can go down the street and have copies made for 10 cents a page, they can't charge you $1 a page. Entities are strongly being encouraged to provide free copies of this health data, and I don't know how many of you are paying attention to what's going on at the national level, but they are starting to, one, enforce access, and two, levy penalties against institutions that are not providing this access to health data. The other piece to know is that they have to inform you in advance of an approximate fee. They can't just say, okay, and then send you a bill for $100. The other piece to know is they can't refuse you access to your health data because of an unpaid healthcare fee. They can refuse to give you the health data until you pay the bill for the health data. Happy to clarify that if anybody has any questions. And then the third party, you as an individual have a right to request that a copy of your health data be sent to a third party. Again, whether that's a family member, another healthcare provider that you may be interested in a second opinion, or maybe you're transferring your care, a health record platform like Citizen, or a research program. And the exact same provisions apply with regard to timing, fees, form, and format. Family member rights are interesting. Individuals can use their right to have the information sent directly to a family member, like we just said, that can be a third party. But family members who either have a power of attorney, then though they are an extension of that individual. So all of those requirements pertain to them requesting records on their behalf. It is important to know that between doctors and hospitals, sharing is permitted but not required. So in some ways, it may be easier for a patient to have that information and send it directly to a care provider. Can they say no? Very, very limited exclusions to deny access. The exceptions are the information might cause you serious physical harm, or the information is being collected as a part of a research study. It is super important to note this information might cause you serious physical harm is not the same as you might be stressed by it, you might be scared by it, you might not understand it. Those are not acceptable reasons under the law to deny people access to their health data. The information collected as part of a research study is very, very real. If you're part of a clinical trial, that information being collected as part of a clinical trial does not have to be shared with you. That is information that belongs to the trial. Hopefully that clinical trial or that clinical study will publish that information, and hopefully they will choose to share it back with you. But that doesn't always happen, and there are many advocates that are definitely trying to change that. They cannot require you to give a reason for wanting your records. I know many forms that people have filled out, they ask why you want these records. You could put in there that because you want to send them to the moon. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong answer because they actually can't require you to give a reason. Again, they cannot say no because you haven't paid a healthcare bill. And they cannot say no because they have concerns that you might not understand or be upset by the information. I see a question, and I just want to address it right now because it's up. Joyce is asking or saying sometimes institutions will say that it's free to send it to another provider, but to a patient or person there is a fee. This does not seem appropriate. We agree that this does not seem appropriate. They do have the ability to charge you reasonable fees, but again, if that fee is excessive, that would be considered information blocking, and it's something that they should be held accountable for. Hopefully everybody can see my screen now, and the slide we're sharing is actually just a screenshot image of a web page that I'm hoping to take you to. And this is the partnership with Triage Cancer. We have partnered with Triage Cancer to give cancer patients an easy way to organize their complete health history. And this is at no charge to Triage Cancer, and this is no charge to cancer patients. We will help individuals collect, summarize, and share their health records digitally. One of the biggest important things to note is this information is collected on behalf of the patient, and it is at the patient's discretion how this information gets shared. So there is no backdoor at Citizen. We're not, suggesting that people have their health records on our platform and we're going to de-identify and share it with pharmaceutical companies. That's not how we work. We truly want people to have access to their own health data to use in the way that they feel compelled to use it. We do have hopes that this health data can help to accelerate research, but these would be research studies that patients would opt into, that they would choose to participate in. So I am going to, Madison, is it okay if I just share my screen now so I can get to the Triage Cancer site?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna stop that and I'm gonna share my everything. And, okay. Can you guys see my screen right now? Or Madison, can you see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going directly to the page that I just showed a screenshot of. And for those of you who might be interested, the individual on the web page is a man named Michael Singer. Michael is a almost 10-year male breast cancer survivor. Male breast cancer, as you may or may not know, is pretty rare, and he's a very active advocate in the community. So through this webpage, individuals can do one of these things. Click the link to sign up. They can scroll down and read more information, or right here, they can schedule a live meeting to get started. This live meeting will take you to a Calendly invite where individuals can set up a time to be walked through this process. I'm going to walk through the process now, and hopefully you guys can see how easy it is, and if you have any questions, we can address them. So when I click sign up, it just wants to make sure it knows who you are, whether you're a patient with a past or current cancer diagnosis or you're the caregiver. So I'm going to click patient. Madison, is this following along the way it's supposed to be? Okay. I am signing up right now. And okay, so it's asking for an email, it's asking for a first name and a last name, it's asking for a password, and then you just click create an account. Oops, I already used that pretend password, pretend name. Let's try this one. Okay. So a couple of things on this screen. First of all, we are leading with what I just shared. Your data belongs to you. You have a right to your health records, and you have a right to get it yourself. You have a right to send it to an app or an individual of your choice. We will, on your behalf, submit a HIPAA records request so that you can share your records, or so that you can have your records uploaded into Citizen and choose to share them if you so desire. If you have your records readily available, you can upload them, or we can remove friction from the process and request your records for you. So I live in California, and I'm going to request from Red Hospital. So when you go here, you should be able to type in your hospital, and there'll be a drop down. It's going to confirm that this is the hospital that you're requesting records sent from, and you just click continue. It's asking if I had imaging done. If you'll remember at the beginning of the call, I said that imaging and those images are part of your health records. So if you have, just click yes. And then you have an option to either include or exclude sensitive record information. These are mental health records, AIDS and HIV status, sexual health and reproductive care information, and substance abuse information. I am a share everything kind of girl, so I clicked yes. And then we have the option to keep your health records up to date. Right now, if you are in active treatment, if you're being seen on a regular basis, we can request your records every 3 months if you would like us to. In the future, we'll move to something that's a little bit more tailored, but right now, three months, oftentimes that's a cadence where people are getting scans or having follow-up appointments. So I'm going to click yes. And then this would like me to take a picture of my ID. And I am going to, I actually don't have my ID right here. So I'm going to, you can see my face here, but I'm going to pretend this is my ID. I'm taking a picture front and continue. And the reason we have to have a picture of an ID is we're making this request on your behalf, and the institution not only has the right to, but it's a good thing that they want to make sure that you are you. So it's asking for a photo of your official ID. Usually that's people's driver's license. It could be your passport, but it needs to be a government issued ID. We do take pictures of the front and the back, and then we'll ask for your signature. If you have a picture of it, you can just upload it, but it's just as easy to take a picture of it. So now I'm taking a picture of the back. I'm pushing continue. And one of the things while this is loading, if you look in the far right here on the bottom, here's a need help button. If you have questions at any time, this is Mikkel actually lives in New York, and she's a fantastic support person. You can ask her any questions you might have. You can scan some of our more frequently asked questions, or you can just try to figure it out yourself. First and last name, this loaded from before. It's going to ask for my birthday, and I'm making one up. And it's going to ask for my gender. It's going to ask for my street address. And then it's going to ask me for any prior names. And so if you have a maiden name, if you've changed your name for some reason, this is where you would put that information. We go back when we request, we go back 10 years. The reason we go back 10 years is because healthcare facilities are not required to keep this data in perpetuity, and typically facilities will destroy health data after 10 years. So if in that 10-year period you've changed names, super important to have that here. I understand and agree that Citizen may send me occasional text messages related to services being provided to me by Citizen. Message and data rates may apply, and I may opt out at any time in the My Info section. And then I say looks good. And now it's saying, please sign. And so this actually, I'm signing on my screen, so it doesn't look so great. This actually gets attached to the HIPAA request form that we send to the institution. And now I'll say looks good. Okay, And now your citizen profile is yours to share. Again, there's no backdoor at Citizen. We can also tell you about opportunities to share data with citizen partners, if they're research partners, if they're advocacy partners. If you would like to see those opportunities, if you would not like to see those opportunities, this is where you would opt in or opt out. So again, I'm a share everything kind of girl. And now it says my records have been requested. Again, I don't know how many of you actually either have had a cancer diagnosis before or supported people with a cancer diagnosis. However, you probably know that it's often multiple facilities that people are seen at, whether it's for imaging at one facility and treatment at another, whether it was a myriad of opinions. So if you have another facility, you can make a new request right here. If you only have the time to request for one facility, or that's the only one you've been seen at, you can click done. And then what it's showing here is my profile. So these are the requests that are out, and within 30 days, my records will be uploaded to that particular profile. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And so I can see if are there any questions? Do you mind, Madison, bringing up the slides? I had like 2 more slides. Just wanted to share. Perfect. I'm actually going to go back. Do I have control or do you have control? Either way.
Have control now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I just want to show the link again. It's Citizen. We spell Citizen with 2 I's. If you look in our logo, it looks like 2 people hugging. So, so I don't know if that will help people remember, but citizen.com/triage cancer, all one word, will bring you to that original page that I showed you. And then these are just some additional resources if you're interested. Patient's Guide to the HIPAA Privacy Rule and the individual's rights under HIPAA to access their health information. Super important to us as a company, to me definitely personally, that if people are not interested in getting their health records and managing them in an ongoing way, that they at least know that they have a right to those health records, and they get them in a way that's going to work best for them. One of the most frustrating things in my health history is going back after my cancer diagnosis and trying to request records prior, because it had been more than 10 years since I had had some things that were probably the precursor to cancer, and those records had been destroyed. So I really would love for people, especially now that in early stage situations, sometimes people are living, you know, very long and high quality lives after a disease, but the chance of recurrence is there, for people to get a hold of these records so that they have control over them. And now, are there any questions?
Oops. Yes, we have some questions. Is there an option to go beyond 10 years?
Going beyond 10 years is challenging. If you have been seen at that facility within 10 years and you're just looking to go back, you know, you've been seen at a facility for 13 years and you just want to go back that full 13 years, yes, we can probably do that. And we would do that out of band. So you would just send a note either to Mikkel or you know, to support at Citizen, and we can probably make that happen. If it's a facility that you have not been seen at in 10 years, they have likely been destroyed, and we've spent a lot of time trying to check and see if certain facilities keep them longer, but without exception, that 10-year mark is a pretty hard and fast rule.
Another question we have is, once the records are uploaded, then can the patient choose to send them to an institution, or do they give them access to their Citizen account?
There's a couple of ways. Are we at time, or do I have like 3 minutes to share something?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Apologies. I'm going to get back here and I'm going to share my profile. So let me log out of this one. And I'm going to log into my actual citizen profile. So this is my, sorry, I cannot type and talk at the same time. Okay, so this is actually my profile. One of the things that I point out to people is that once your health records come in, two things important to note. One, it's fantastic. This was the first time I had ever been able to see some of my original scans, after my diagnosis, and I can see them here in the study that they were conducted in. Also important to note that I have access to the actual medical files. And for some people, that's fascinating. For some people, it can be incredibly triggering. One of the values with Citizen is not only do we collect all of your health records for you, but we actually then put them into what's called a cancer summary view. And so what you're seeing here, and apologies for my going so quickly, what you're seeing here is 19 of the more significant fields with regard to cancer care, but they've been summarized. So very, very quickly, if I wanted to share this with an additional provider, I could do a couple of things. I can download an actual report, like my pathology report, and then I could email it on my own. Or what I can do is I can add somebody to my care team. And when you add somebody to your care team, you are giving them access to, I can't do right here, you're giving them access to your health records. So you've seen I've given myself access here. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, if anybody wants to go through it in more detail, I'm happy to make that happen. I want to respect the fact that we're over time here.
Great. Thank you so much for that practical and very useful information. We're very excited for our partnership.
So I will, I don't think I have my email address on here. I am typing my email address, again, with the spelling and the wonky name. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly, or feel free to reach out to Madison and she can help you get in contact with me.
Of course. So again, thank you, Stacy. Just before we go, I wanted to remind you all of the requirements to receive continuing education credit. You must have registered online for today's session. People who are listening in on someone else's computer are not eligible for credit. You must also have attended the entire webinar. No partial credit will be awarded, and anyone watching a recording of this webinar will also not be eligible for credit. Within 1 week of this webinar, complete an evaluation and post-test. You must receive a passing grade on the post-test to be eligible for contact hours, and you will receive an email tomorrow which will contain a link to the evaluation and post-test. Please note that on the evaluation, it asks for your name and email address, and you must include these so that we can certify that you completed the evaluation. And that email is the address we will use to mail the certificates within 4 weeks. For other types of healthcare professionals, we are more than happy to provide a general certificate of attendance. Just make sure to indicate that request on your evaluation. And if you have any questions or experience any problems, please feel free to email us at info@triagecancer.org. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you found this presentation useful and will continue to stay connected with Triage Cancer.
Thank you.